Hello, welcome to today's live. Again, as always, lovely. Let me just move so you can see. Sunny Portugal. I can't believe this is February. I can remember February in England was this frigid, unbearably cold. It was quite an unpleasant experience. Today is like, I don't know, it feels like 20 degrees. It's really hot. I would definitely have my shirt off right now if I wasn't doing a live, so I could get some good sun, get some tanning in. But today we're going to talk about methylation. We're going to talk about methylation support. We're going to talk about why you can have negative reactions to methylation support, even if it's the right type of methylation support. We're going to talk about like these processes, what it is, how it goes wrong, and something that so we'll cover this as a preface before we even get started. So with these things, so when we're talking about methylation, we're also going to be talking a lot about these mutations in enzyme pathways that we have genetically. So this is things like CBS and MTHFR C677T and these other things that if you've clicked this video and you're interested in methylation support, you probably know some of these SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. So something that's really important to remember with these types of genetic predispositions to having these problems, so MTHFR C677T and CBS, and even if you've got like a genetic predisposition to have an increased chance of having cancer or Alzheimer's or diabetes or dementia or whatever it is, you have to remember this. This is the most important thing because it's very empowering as well. You hear that you've got these things genetically and you think, oh well, I'm fucked, there's nothing I can do, it's genetic, it's inevitable, it's just going to happen. The thing is, genetics load the gun, but epigenetics pull the trigger. So epigenetics are things that are above your genetics. So these are things you actually have control over. These are things you actually are able to influence. So this takes you from being in a powerless victimhood position where you've got a genetic predisposition to get cancer, you're fucked, you're going to get cancer, you're just going to get cancer and die, and that's the end of it. And you're like, that's really disempowering. There's not much you can do about that. But if we look at genetic expression, we can change how these genes express. So this gene that means you're predisposed to developing cancer, we can make it so that that gene doesn't express, and in doing so, you don't get cancer. So something that I think is really important to understand is, if before you were diagnosed or before you learned about all of these issues, so before you were diagnosed with having, say, I'll use MTHFR C677T, because it's probably the most common one. It's one of the ones that I struggle with, one of my issues. But the question then becomes, well, if your genetics are set in stone and you have your genetics since the day that you're born until the day that you die, the only way that your genetics ever change in your whole life is if you get some random frequency that comes from the sun, like some radiation, and it hits you and it changes your genetic sequence. Like, it's very rare, it's very uncommon, it really does not happen very often, and if it does, it's changed for good, but it's very unlikely, it doesn't happen very often. So if you do a genetic test, like, this is why I think that I'm not a huge fan of a lot of functional testing. Oh, we've got a dog coming over. Might be getting a little doggy visitor in a minute. I'm not really much of a fan of functional testing because it's only a small snapshot in time. The thing is, with this type of genetic report where you sequence your genome and you see which SNPs you have, this is a test you will have for life. So I think this data is really useful, really interesting, because it's not going to change. Like, if you do a gut test or an oat test or a hormone panel, the day that you take it, like the second you take it, it's valid. Like the next second, your hormones, your gut, everything's in a completely different place. But your genetics, they stay the same. So that's why I like this test. But if your genetics have been the same your whole life, why is it that when you were, say you were younger and you were like 10, you were 15, whatever, and you were eating like the standard American diet, you weren't taking methyl vitamins, you weren't having chronic fatigue syndrome, you weren't having all of these issues, you still had those genes, it's just they were expressing differently. So the epigenetic environment, the environmental circumstances, were able to support your body to be healthy in that environment. So what happens is let me just clear my nose, excuse me. Not the most appealing thing, but I was choking on it. Sorry about that. So when our epigenetic environment is changing, it challenges the way that our genes are expressing. So if, for example, this is something that I've been looking at a lot, and something I think is one of the underlying root causes of why so many people develop methylation issues, especially with things like MTHFR, C677T, and its connection to sensory processing disorders, autism, and chronic fatigue syndrome. So I've been doing some research, and it looks like if you have a healthy, appropriate microbiome, your body is able to synthesize enough folate for you on a daily basis based on the fermentation of fibers, prebiotics, and polyphenols in your gut. So if you've got the right appropriate microflora and you're feeding it the appropriate foods, they can actually create enough folate for you to function without taking any folate from your diet at all. Because if you look at the sources of folate in the diet, they're actually really low in natural foods. So short of like juicing loads of greens or taking like methylated B vitamins, it's really hard to get high numbers of these things. And juicing greens is going to be something we're going to talk about towards the end. We're talking about a methylation support juice, very well tolerated, even if you have intolerance to methylated B vitamins or B complex supplements and things like that. So stay tuned for that. So the epigenetic environment changed. So the demand for these methyl donors was increased. So if you're exposed to mold or mycotoxins or glyphosate or metals or anything that is going to put an extra stress load on your body that's going to require it to methylate more, is going to use up these nutrients. And then again, say you're exposed to like mold mycotoxins, for example, these are potently antibiotic, so they're killing these organisms that are present in your gut that enable you to produce folate in your own gut. So then you get stuck in a position where you're now having an increased demand. So this is your epigenetics. These are not, you haven't changed anything genetically. These are things that are in your environment. Even the composition of your microflora is an epigenetic influence. It might feel like it's inside you, but it's not. It's actually outside of you. Your gut, your whole digestive system is a hollow tube that goes all the way through your body. So everything that goes into your mouth and goes all the way through your intestine until you poop it out, it basically is still outside your body. But it's weird because it's like, it's outside of your body, but it's inside of your body, but it's outside. It's in this hollow tube that goes through. So this is actually epigenetic. This is outside of your genetics. So the composition of the microbiome changes and the demand for methylation is increased, so exposure to toxins, mold, mycotoxins. And we get to a place where now these genes, the fact that you have deficiencies in these genes, so they don't function as a really high rate, means that the demand that's been put on the body means that these the ability of these enzymes to work is now not enough to keep up with the demand. And that's when the symptoms begin to present. It's when you can imagine that you've got like a pipe and the amount of stuff flowing through is now more than the size of the pipe. So you're getting a backlog, and that's what symptoms are. That's when these symptoms begin to express. I think I can hear an aeroplane. Let me see if I can find it. No, it's a lawnmower. Just sitting up there looking there, and there's a lawnmower. So maybe there's going to be some lawnmower action going on behind me. That should be fun. Hopefully I don't get run over. So where should we go from here? There's a lot to talk about. So let's talk about why we can have reactions to methylation support. Why, even say you have MTHFR C677T and then you take methylfolate, why that can cause reactions. So as we just described with this analogy, you've got a certain amount of work that needs to go through these pipes, and going through the pipes is sort of like these. So you always hear about like detox pathways, right? I'm sure you've heard these things. So you could say like, how do I get my detox pathways unblocked? Well, these detox pathways are essentially, they're like pipes, and different pipes based on your genetics have different sizes. So this is like the size of somebody's pipe if they don't have any mutations in their MTHFR C677T. And then if you're heterozygous and you have a slight inhibition, the pipe is like this. And then if you have homozygous, so your enzyme is inhibited to 70%, it's really small. So you can still see there's a pipe here. Stuff can still fit through. So if the amount of stuff that's trying to come through the pipe is less, you have no symptoms. And if we can make it so that instead of the reservoir of work that needs to be done accumulating behind this pipe is instead in front of it, then this pathway doesn't matter. So this is what providing methylfolate does. Instead of this pathway needing to methylate certain things in your metabolism and then getting stuck back here, by taking methylfolate we basically just pretend that this pipe doesn't even matter. We just put everything in front of it, so now there's no blockage at this point. So this is where the reactions can occur, because what we've done now is at this point you were getting symptoms because everything was like trying to come through this pipe and it wasn't fitting, and that's where the symptoms were coming from. Now we've bypassed that, we're at the next stage in the pathway. So this could be something that I've been researching recently, because this is relevant to me, so this is why I've been doing more research on this specifically, is after this stage there's interesting interactions between homocysteine being broken down into methionine, and it requires a certain enzyme pathway to do this. And this is something that comes a step past what we were just talking about. So if your issues were here, and then you take methylfolate, and then you move here, and then you've got the CBS, CBS, I think off the top of my head, is cystathione beta synthase enzyme. If you've got a deficiency in that, which I also do, lucky me, now I've moved this problem from being stuck here to being stuck here. So it's in front of this blockage, but I've got another blockage just in front of it. So now I have to do things to support this pathway too. So this is why you can take, say, like methylfolate and still have reactions, or have even worse reactions, is because now you've, in essence, unblocked this back pipe, but the front pipe is still blocked. So now instead of having symptoms that are present when this is happening, so the symptoms here might be, I'll use me for an example, so fatigue, brain fog, really low emotional capacity, really find it hard to relate to people's emotions, very autistic-like tendencies. And then take methylfolate, feel really good because you've just unblocked this, but then all of this stuff that was stuck back here is now moved forward to the next step. And then this step starts getting blocked up because this step needs different types of support. So this is why cofactors and the other things that are required to help at all of these different stages of the pathway are important. And that's why it's really hard to figure this out just by, even if you go to like the most expert methylation specialist like on the planet, and they say like, oh, I'm looking at this gene, this gene, this gene, like we need to do this, and they implement these changes, you've still got a very low likelihood that you're just going to feel amazing straight away. Because even with your genetics, and even with your current symptom expression, and even being a very talented practitioner, it's really hard to get all of these things right. But what you can do is, as you implement some of these, so supplements or changes, and like you could do other things, like say for example, say you don't tolerate sulfur very well. So cysteine, homocysteine, methionine, these are all sulfur-based molecules. So say you've got some issues here, and there's a lot of like backlog occurring. But part of this is this feeds into the transsulfuration pathway. So say we support the body in the transsulfuration pathway. That's a hard one to say. Transsulfuration pathway. You try and say it really fast. Transsulfuration pathway. So we could support this by, say, having an Epsom salt bath. So now we've provided the body with sulfate. So it doesn't need to put so much stuff through this transsulfuration pathway to make sulfate, because we've provided sulfate already. So this is also really good if you have sulfur intolerance in foods. So if you, what is that? I have a banana in my pocket. Let me just put that over there. Forgot about that. Next on my magic show, we'll be pulling rabbits out of my hat. Oh, I do actually have a hat. We could pull a rabbit out. So, yeah, methylation and magic tricks. What a fun life. So, we can support this in different kinds of ways depending on like your different intolerances. So, the stage that I'm at now is I'm trying to make it so that I can live my life as free as possible. So unchained by supplements and therapies, and like, so for me right now, I need an Epsom salt bath every single night, and I need vegetable juice every single day. And I'm going to talk about vegetable juice in a minute. We're going to talk about why that's important and how that can really help with these methylation issues. So again, we've got recipes at the end. I'm going to talk about a juicing recipe that really helps with methylation support. Whether you don't tolerate methyl supplements, or whether you're taking them already, or whatever it is, this will be helpful. And I've also got low histamine versions and a GAPS-friendly version as well. So they're coming at the end. So I made a post recently saying, if you think that taking 30 supplements a day is what health is, then you're wrong. Like, so to me, optimal health is like a maximum level of resiliency where without having to rely on external things. So obviously you need vitamins, obviously you need nutrients, obviously you need to eat food. It's not like you can just become a breatharian and just breathe air and be fine on that. Like that's an unrealistically unobtainable goal. But what I'm looking at is making it so that I'm in a place where I don't have to lean on anything. I don't have to rely on supplements, and like I can go a week without juicing and not die. I can skip an Epsom salt bath. I'm not like stuck having to do these things. It's like I can not take a supplement and still feel okay. That's the point that I'm trying to get to. So I'm trying to build my nutrient reserves. I'm trying to build this. I'm trying to cultivate health in my body, because to me that's what health is. Health is resiliency. It's not having to rely on all of these supplements. And when I posted this, I got a lot of negative backlash, like supplements have really helped me, and supplements are good, and you should be careful with what you're saying because people taking supplements might stop taking them. I'm not telling you to stop taking supplements. I take supplements. Like, I do these things myself. But to me, this is not what health is. This is facilitating me to have my highest level of health right now in my current environment with my current epigenetic environment. So my gut flora is not great because I wasn't able to eat fiber for 7 years and I was exposed to mold for 7 years. So it's like you have to look at it in context. Is your goal to reach a point where you can just take 30 supplements and be pretty symptom free? Like, that might be your goal, and maybe that's what health looks like to you, but that is not what health looks like to me. To me, health is, I'm so resilient that I don't need to take all of these things to feel healthy again. And I will get to that point. I don't know how. I cannot tell you exactly how I'm going to do it. But as I said before, I told you I would heal all of my food sensitivities, and I didn't know how I would do it, and I did it. And I don't have any food sensitivities anymore. So I've done that. So you've got proof. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I don't know how I'm going to achieve this, but keep watching. You will see I am going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of me figuring it out, but I'm going to do it. So I take supplements right now. I'm playing with methylfolate, as we were just talking about with this, getting past the methylation issue. So now I'm taking. So I couldn't take these kind of supplements because I had so many food sensitivities. So that was the big hurdle for me. I've now moved past that point where I'm able to tolerate supplements again. As I don't have any food sensitivities, I can eat fiber, I can eat like the additives, I can eat rice, I can eat starch, I can eat cellulose, I can eat all the things that are in these supplements. And before I used to actually react to the B vitamins as well, because B vitamins are bacterial metabolites. Folate is B vitamin, B12, these are all things that are produced in the fermentation process, like in your gut or in animals. Like, this is why animal products are so high in B12, is because, well, most of these animals are herbivorous and they've got this fermentation process happening in their gut, and they produce lots of B vitamins in their gut that then get absorbed. They have them in their body and then we eat them, and that's where we get our B12. So making sure that we have these, completely lost my train of thought, absolutely just completely reset. So I'm able to tolerate these supplements now. So I am taking a B complex, and I'm taking a very high strength methylated B vitamin supplement. And when I take these things, I feel like really high, and then I crash. Actually, that was the first time I took it was yesterday. Today I took half, and I actually feel pretty awesome, to be honest. I feel pretty amazing. I've been able to have less juice. I think you can see I'm firing all cylinders. I feel pretty good. Just had a little workout. And I took 400 milligrams, actually, because I took the B complex with it, so a total of 600 milligrams of folate. But I've been looking into it, and I know I have issues with sulfur, and that's why I've always needed to use the Epsom salt baths. But as I said, I'm trying to make myself free again. I don't want to be chained to, like, every time I go on holiday, I have to bring my juicer, and I have to bring Epsom salts, which is fucking heavy. It's like 25 kilogram bag of Epsom salts, really heavy, pain in the ass to do, makes traveling really difficult. And I want to be free. I'm like a bird. I want to fly. I feel really cool to travel. So now I've got the luxury of being able to tolerate these supplements. So the things that you really get from Epsom salts are the magnesium and the sulfur, the sulfate. Sulfate is kind of like quite far down in the transsulfuration pathway. So if I can supplement with something that's higher up, not only is it going to give me this sulfate that I need, but it's also going to provide loads of other stuff that sulfate can't provide. So now I'm looking at taking something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. So cysteine is pretty much the sort of like the mother sulfur molecule. So you can make basically everything that you need out of cysteine. You can make glutathione, you can make sulfate, you can use it in these methylation pathways through homocysteine, so obviously homocysteine, so it's got cysteine in the name, you can tell they're pretty similar. Homocysteine, methionine, it affects all of these things because these are all sulfur based, and NAC is really like the sulfur providing molecule. So I'm at the step now where I'm trying to calibrate my folate supplement balance in context with all of the other things that it needs. So you need thiamine, you need niacin, you need B6, you need B12, you need all of these things. So I'm making sure that I'm providing my body all of these things in the balance, and that's what prevents these reactions. So now I'm looking to travel and sort of free myself from needing to use the Epsom salts on a daily basis. I'm going to be providing the sulfate through cysteine, NAC, N-acetylcysteine as an oral supplement, and I'm going to get the magnesium. I'm going to take an oral supplement for that as well. So I'm looking at getting this really nice seven forms of magnesium complex. It looks really cool. If you're interested in anything that I talk about in this, let me know. I'll send you it. Like, I don't mind just sending you a link to anything that I've talked about. So if you want links to anything, just let me know. So yeah, looking forward to all of that, setting myself up so that I'm in alignment with being able to travel. I know Joanna and I are traveling sometime in February or March. Again, I don't see how it's going to happen. I don't know where we're traveling. I don't know why we're traveling, but I know it's going to happen. So I have to start putting my ducks in a row so that I'm ready to do that. So we're doing that. So I'm going to see how transitioning off of the sulfate onto the NAC and the magnesium, in combination with the B complex and the folate in a higher dose, works with me being able to transition off of juice and Epsom salts. And then once I'm off of those two, I'm really free. I can just bring those things with me, and it's way easier. And again, this is just about building my body back up to the point where it has a low load, so epigenetically it doesn't have a high stress load, so it doesn't need so many vitamins, and increasing my ability to synthesize them myself from my own gut flora, so constantly working on my microbiome. So I've been playing with kefir, which has been really fun, causing me some pretty serious reactions. Again, something I couldn't do before because I had all of these intolerances, sensitivities to histamine and any kind of sugar and like milk and things like that. No sensitivities anymore, so I can play with these things. So it's like I've opened up this whole new realm of things that I'm able to experiment with. And as I do so, it's very interesting. I'm seeing so much progress. It's really nice. I know that my ultimate health, so being completely symptom free, is literally like 2 or 3 months away. And further than that, I'd say within a year I'm going to be completely healed. Like, don't need supplements, don't need anything. I can really see it being that soon. So I'm absolutely thrilled with that. That's amazing. It's wonderful as far as I'm concerned. So now let's talk about this juice, this methylation support juice. So as I just said, it's not just about you do need to make sure that you know where your problems are. So if you know you have MTHFR, if you know you have CBS, if you know you have all these different things, you know what nutrients, like as a primary what your body needs as primary support. So you know if you've got MTHFR, you need extra folate. You know if you've got CBS, you need to look in your transsulfation pathways and look at homocysteine and how it's turning to methionine, and what things are required in this process. So as you figure these out, you're able to provide these as sort of like macronutrients. You could do this through a supplement. If you're not sure of any of these things, you can just begin providing your body with these things in a whole food form, in a whole food blend, in a whole food balance, and you're going to get all of the benefits. And you may even get more, because supplementing with individual nutrients, as I've just explained, is really difficult. Whereas when you do it in a whole food form, you always have every single cofactor. You don't find foods in nature that are out of balance. They are all in balance. They're all perfect for you. So now I'm going to talk about how we can build a methylation support juice that's perfect for you. So if you know you've got, so here's the base. We'll go over the basic recipe. So a large portion of this is greens, especially sulfurous-based greens. So kale and collards or chard, things like that. They're your best option. Things as well that would work quite nicely for here are things like cabbage. So if you do well with cabbage, although that's considerably more sulfurous, so if you do have some kind of sulfur intolerance, maybe you want to go with the others. That's probably going to make up the majority, especially because it's like leafy, so it takes up a lot of space and gives you very little juice. So looking at it from the amount of juice that's produced, that's probably going to be like 20, 30, 40% of the composition of your juice. I would also include some, so this is completely optional. The thing I love about juicing is take what you need, take what works for you, and don't do the rest. So something I'm going to say is you can include lemons. If you know you have histamine problems, don't include lemons, because obviously they're high in histamine, so avoid that. But say you do well with lemons. Lemons work really well in this because, one, they really take away that bitterness that you get from the bitter vegetables like the greens, so that can really help. But also, if you are juicing a lot of greens, oxalates may be something that you're concerned about. Oxalates in and of themselves aren't bad. When you're juicing, you're concentrating them a lot. Again, still not bad, but oxalate issues are really... Oh, lawnmower's coming over. I think we're going to have to relocate. Oxalate issues really are all about... Let me just move out of the way. That's fun. So oxalate issues really are more about the gut, and they're more about the mineral balance in the body. So if you're having problems with oxalates, you definitely need to be working on your gut. There's no question about that. Any type of oxalate issue. And if your oxalate issues are manifesting as kidney stones, then you need to look at the mineral balance in your body. Lemons are a really great solution here because the lemons contain lots of things that will bind with the oxalic acid and then will be excreted as a water-soluble compound in your urine. So instead of it forming calcium oxalate, which is what the stones are made of, you'll just remove this from your body naturally. Like, your body does this all the time. Your body produces oxalate all the time. You have microbes in your gut that produce oxalate all the time. Oxalate is not a bad thing. It's more complicated than that, as it always is. So lemon is a really good thing that you can add. Helps with the taste, helps with the oxalate content of the greens. Oh god, he's coming back. This is going to be fun. Might have to move somewhere. I might pick it up and walk and move. Yeah, let's do that. Just put my banana in my pocket. Got grass all over me now. What do you think of my new trousers? I think they're really cool. Yellow and blue. Okay, I've got you in a big tripod, so this is going to be fun. Let me just pick you up. Whoop. Okay, and we're walking and talking, so let me just orientate you like this. Cool. So, other ingredients that we can put in this blend. I would go with some beetroot. Beetroot is really nice because it has betaine in it. Betaine is used in many of these different pathways that we're talking about. Having deficiencies in betaine can cause many of these sort of like paradoxical reactions to taking the methylation support. It's also like the precursor to stomach acid. You've probably heard when you buy a stomach acid supplement, it's betaine HCl. So if you've got a deficiency of betaine, you're not going to be able to produce much stomach acid. So making sure that you supplement that can be really helpful, or doing it in getting beets in your juice is also a really good way to do it. Let me see if we can just set up over here. Sorry about the minor technical difficulties. Couldn't have planned for that. Okay, let me go this way, because I don't have the sun in my face. Let's put you there. Cool. So the sun's behind my head. That works well. Okay. So beet. That's also a really good thing that we can add. Another thing I like to add is carrots. Carrots are a really good natural sweetener. They're not very high in many anti-nutrients, so they're usually very well tolerated. And something I find is a lot of people are missing some carbs in the diet, and I'm still a fan of keto, I'm still a fan of using a low carb diet, but the difference between low carb and no carb is can have quite a profound effect, and some people do a bit better with carbs. Now I'm able to tolerate them, I find I'm doing a lot better with them. So if you're able to tolerate them, a good way to do this is carrot. So carrot's really nice because the sugars that are available in the carrot are monosaccharide form already, so they're very GAPS friendly, which is nice if you're trying to do this on GAPS. If you are doing this on GAPS, with the beetroot, you want to keep the amount of beetroot quite small, because beetroot, you've probably seen like conventional like table sugar is made from, well, sometimes it's made from cane sugar, sometimes it's made from sugar beets. So sugar beets obviously are beetroot, so they do have a lot of disaccharide sugars in them. So keep the percentage small. Even in GAPS, it's fine. Even in the GAPS book, it says you can have beetroot because the benefits are so powerful. Just keep it small so that you're able to break down the disaccharides. Just keep it to a small amount. But carrots, they're all monosaccharide. It's primarily fructose, a little bit of glucose, and they're actually really antifungal. So think about a carrot. It's underground, right? And the ground is basically just like earth. Is basically a mix of like stuff that's been broken down and bacteria and yeast, and it's like, and how is this like a carrot that is full of sugar and able to survive under the ground? Like, why does it not get eaten? And this is because it's full of antifungal compounds, antimicrobial compounds. It's living, it's alive. So when you juice, you're putting all of these things in your gut. So if you've got fungal dysbiosis, if you've got bacterial dysbiosis, even though this has sugar in, it's got antimicrobial, antifungal compounds in it too. And the primary reason that we have it in here is it tastes quite good, and greens don't really taste great. Beetroot, you might say, I guess it's probably like a Marmite kind of thing. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think it's okay. I don't dislike it, but if you have too much in there, you definitely can see that it's affecting the taste. Something else I think is really good in there is apples. So apples are really good because they have malic acid in. Again, this is going to help with any formation of kidney stones, or it's going to help binding with the oxalates. So It's really good for that reason. Also really helps with the bile flow. So not going to go over it today. Bile, so important. If you've got methylation issues, making sure your bile health is good is really important. Everything that happens in the methylation detoxification process in your liver is basically packaged into your bile and excreted. So if your bile isn't working, that's one of these downstream pipes that you need to focus on before you can even really look at MTHFR, CBS, all these other things, because it's further downstream. So you need to look at that. So really helpful with that with your bile health. Also, it's quite sweet, so it does add a nice little bit of flavour. And I mean, if you can eat fruit, don't restrict yourself unnecessarily. I'm definitely not one for unnecessary restriction. So if you tolerate it and it agrees with you, I'd definitely put that in. And then, so that's kind of like the basic thing. If you need a bit more volume of your juice, you can add celery or cucumber because they're really watery. If you're just looking for like a really high strength juice and then you drink less of it and it's higher strength, I would just go with carrots, apples, beetroot, lemon. What else would I suggest? So ginger and turmeric, these are optional, but I think these are really good. So very anti-inflammatory. The ginger is a digestive stimulant. It's very fiery, it's very hot. A lot of people, when they're struggling with digestive issues, they've like lost the digestive fire. So anything we eat that's like fiery can kind of put that fire back in there. It can really calm like bloating, IBS. It can really help. It's got a lot of 5-HTP in it, which is a precursor to serotonin. So with mood disorders and things, helps with motility as well. It's a really good one. Don't even have to talk about the health benefits of turmeric. It's like one of the most widely researched and very well documented. Everybody's talking about turmeric and curcumin and how it's beneficial. Don't even need me to tell you about that. It's really cool. If you can get it fresh, it's really nice. If you can get fresh turmeric root, it does stain your hands a little bit. I don't know. So I've got my hands. They're red because I've been doing pull-ups, but there's like orange here as well. That's fresh turmeric. They will stain everything. You touch your clothes with turmeric on your hands, they will be stained forever. So be really careful. They're actually really good at whitening your teeth though. So if you drink the turmeric juice, immediately it makes your teeth a little bit like orangey, but if you like once you brush them afterwards, it actually makes them really white, and it's got pretty white teeth. I put most of that down to turmeric, and I've got some. I can use toothpaste again. I mean, how crazy is that? I've been brushing my teeth for like the last 6 years without any toothpaste because I just reacted to it. So I can use toothpaste again, which is really nice. So yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. I would, if you have intolerance to sulfur, so if you eat certain foods and then you get this like sulfurous odor, so hydrogen sulfide gas, or you know that you have sulfur intolerance, that's a really important sign that your body needs sulfur. If you have reactions to sulfur, you are definitely deficient in sulfur. So you need to figure out some way that you can provide your body with sulfur or support the transsulfuration pathway. Off the top of my head, the only ways you can do this without putting it in your gut is through the skin, so transdermally. It's actually a really interesting supplement. What was it called? DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide. It's got a very, I know it's been tested to allow, it's very transdermal. It passes through the skin very easily, and they've been using it as a delivery mechanism to make transdermal drugs like nicotine patches, putting like DMSO on it. Dimethyl sulfoxide. So let's break that down. Dimethyl means two methyls, which means it's providing two methyl groups, which is cool if you've got, if you need like methylfolate, for example. The thing you really need is the methyl part. So dimethyl, which is cool, sulfoxide. So this is sulfur bound to oxygen. So you're getting methyl groups, you're getting sulfur, and you're getting oxide. Not really important. You can breathe enough oxygen. You don't really need that. But the methyl and the sulfur, that might be really helpful. So you could try that. You can put that on your skin, transdermal absorption. Magnesium sulfate as well, so Epsom salts in your bath. It's got magnesium, it's got sulfate, so it's quite a low form of sulfur, so it's already quite metabolized. It might be very helpful in your case. It also has a sparing effect of sulfur, so you could try that and see how that goes. Other than that, the only thing I can think of would be an IV. So if you were to do like IV NAC or IV glutathione, they're the only other ways that I can think of getting it. But making sure that you've got those sorted is really important because, again, sulfur, 6th most abundant mineral in the human body. It's the precursor to glutathione. It works as an extracellular and intracellular antioxidant by itself, so very, very important. So you can provide a lot of sulfur by juicing kale, by juicing cabbage, by juicing collards, any of these types of greens, even ginger as well. Ginger has some sulfur in it as well. So you can get a lot of that from there. And when you're doing this with whole foods, you're way less likely to get reactions. And even if you're using methylation supplements, so say, like me, you're taking methylfolate, when I do that, it might create deficiency, because when you do it, it upregulates your metabolism. Your body is like, oh, we've got this methylfolate now. We've got all these jobs that we wanted to do. Like, let's burn through all of these jobs. But all of these other jobs might require more B12 and more B1, so more thiamine, more cobalamin. So then you run out of those other cofactors, and then you have reactions, but for a different reason. Now you've got enough folate, and now the rate limiting factor is another molecule. So when you do juicing, you're providing basically all of the B vitamins apart from B12. So you're getting folate, you're getting paradoxical, you're getting B1, you're getting B2, you're getting basically all of them. You're getting enzymes, which are going to help your body to do these processes in the liver. Enzymes are catalysts that speed up reactions, so it's going to help your body through these things. You're also providing loads of minerals, so minerals are also very important cofactors: magnesium, potassium, sodium, molybdenum, the trace minerals. So let me see how many of I can think of. So there's things like cadmium, I think cadmium, is that a beneficial one or is that a toxic one? I don't know, maybe that's a toxic one. Molybdenum, there's loads of little very important trace minerals, and things like iodine. So juicing is going to be providing you with all of these things. So you're going to stave off some of these more unpleasant reactions, because the reactions are only present when there's a rate limiting factor, be it an enzyme. So say you've got a genetic predisposition to have a problem with a certain enzyme, that could be a rate limiting factor, or running out of a certain nutrient, that could be a rate limiting factor. So what we're trying to do is figure out where the rate limiting factor is and support the body in the way that means that isn't the rate limiting factor anymore, and then the body heals, and that's just what it wants to do. The body knows how to heal itself. So by making sure that we're providing it with all of these things, we reduce the rate limiting factor, we reduce the symptoms, so we can reduce the symptoms of reaction to methylation supplements by making sure we've provided all of these other things. And that's why juicing is really cool, because even if you don't know what it is, you're like, maybe it's betaine, maybe it's sulfur, maybe it's B2, maybe it's manganese, like who knows, they're all in juice. So whatever it is, juice, and you're going to get you're going to support the body with whatever is being stuck by this rate limiting factor. It might not be enough, but it's definitely going to help, it's definitely going to support it. So even if you can't tolerate methyl supplements, you can still provide a lot of these things that your body needs just by doing this juice alone. That's what I was doing for the last 5 years. I've only just reached a point where I'm able to tolerate these other things now. So now I'm able to explore more and provide my body with more of these nutrients. So instead of these things being the rate limiting factors, it will be my genetic pathways, which is cool because that means I'm healing at my fastest speed, which is really awesome. So hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. This is a very difficult topic to talk about and answer so you can leave me a question. I'm more than happy for you to do so, but it's very difficult to talk about without knowing your genetic profile and your circumstances and your symptoms and all of this very complicated stuff. So leave me a question, I'd be more than happy to try and answer it. However, I'm going to say this is all stuff that you really need to look at in context with your doctor, with your practitioner, with your coach, with whoever it is that you're working with, or if you're doing it by yourself, just engage your brain, right? Because this is pretty complicated. It's pretty difficult to bring into consideration all of these factors. So if you do have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to try and answer them, but as I said, it might be a little bit difficult, but I'll do my best. So I hope you found this really helpful. If you have found this helpful, and especially if you haven't watched this live, you've watched this recorded. If you've watched this all the way from the beginning to the end, you have just enjoyed I think this is probably 30-40 minutes of my day. So if you've enjoyed this, please tell me, let me know, because I take time out of my day to share this information that I've learned with you. It's my shoulder's aching a little bit. I'd rather be laying I'm right next to the beach. I'd rather be sunbathing on the beach, but I've taken time to do this. So if you appreciate it, please let me know, because I really do put a lot of effort into this and I really take time out of my day to share this with you. So if you did like it, please let me know, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.